Well, the U.S. trade picture for ag commodities, of course, is always top of mind, but it's starting to feel like it could be even a little bit more top of mind here as we are working through the summer months. Joining us today to discuss what is going on with trade policy and more, we have the President CEO of the Quarter Refiners Association. John Bode is with us. John, always great to talk to you, sir. I hope you're doing well.
Thanks, Jesse. I'm doing great. It's always a pleasure to talk with you.
Well, let's dive in and let's talk trade policy here. And I know a new report out from the Quarter Refiners Association looking at this U.S. trade landscape. And there's a lot to unpack here. Just for starters, John, could you give us a bit of an overview of what the report found and what you're looking at when it comes to our current ag trade situation, John?
Sure, Jesse. We're always worried about opening markets for America's agriculture. That's the key to profitability in agriculture. And what we looked at is reports was looked at is trade agreements entered into since 2010 and that were implemented. So new markets that were opened since 2010. And what we found is that the U.S. Signed 4 agreements that open new markets. And China, our major strategic and economic competitor, entered 12, 3 times as many. And one of those was the largest trade agreement in the world. And the EU, Japan, Canada also all outdistanced the U.S. by a long ways. And when you look at the actual benefits received by the U.S. and its competitors from these agreements that were implemented since 2010, China had 4 times as much benefit as the U.S. And the EU had over twice as much benefit as the U.S. So we are being left behind. And that's a major concern for the future. China is already the largest trader in the world. And I would submit that that's a concern for American agriculture and our economic opportunity. It's also a concern for the American consumer. And it's also a concern for America strategically, because our economic influence in the world is declining, and that's not good for world peace.
Well, John, I know there is some efforts in Washington, D.C. on Capitol Hill to look at this stalling U.S. trade. Can you tell us a little bit more about the United Act that has been introduced in Congress and support for that from not only the Corn Refiners Association, but 48 food and ag industry members in total, it sounds like?
That's right, Jesse. So the United Act is bipartisan legislation, and we celebrate the fact that we've got thoughtful leaders from both parties who are saying we need to do better on this front. And so the United Act is in the Senate. Senator Coons and Senator Thune from South Dakota, as well as in the House is Adrian Smith from Nebraska and Congressman Jim Hines from Connecticut. So they are coming together and they're saying, let's give President Biden trade promotion authority so he can negotiate a trade agreement with the UK. And it will be on USMCA type terms, and it will be limited to the UK. So it's very streamlined, and this is about, by all standards, a smart trade agreement for America and American workers, and to get this moving. And as you indicated, broad support for this effort by American agriculture. The national associations representing cattlemen, chicken, pork, corn, soy, all over the board, as well as groups like the Farm Bureau being supportive. So we're all together, and pushing for this. And we're hopeful that we can get this low-hanging fruit in the area of trade agreements with the UK, get that rolling.
Well, I know as well this report here coming just a few weeks after USDA lowered their forecast for US ag exports, and looking at the size, increasing the size of the projected agricultural trade deficit to some $17 billion. And it's amazing to me, John, that like you mentioned, China opening so many agreements, whereas we have not. And we have a lot of ag commodities to export here in the US, a lot of great quality products. And it's amazing to me that we're not necessarily doing that and advancing that here in 2023, John.
I'm with you, Jesse. I think we're blowing an opportunity, and we will pay for that for a very long time to come. And it's of fundamental importance that we recognize that this is a long-term trend, and we pay those costs for a long time.
Well, John, before we let you go, again, great thoughts. Any other thoughts to share with us here, just about this report from the Corn Refiners Association, or just the ag trade picture and landscape in general?
I would emphasize, Jesse, that there is bipartisan support for smart trade, and it's the United Act is an example, but also we see it in what Congress is doing even today regarding Taiwan. So we can't afford for America to be left out as the rest of the world moves forward in advancing their economic interests. We need to be at the table, or we will pay prices, because if others set the rules, they will be set so that it works against America. And the final point I would add, Jesse, is there's this sense that it's agriculture versus manufacturing, and that's a false dichotomy. We actually have twice as many people in America with jobs manufacturing agricultural products as automobiles. Agriculture is the foundation for much of our economy, 20% of our economy, and that includes lots of manufacturing jobs and good jobs, and we need to keep building on that success.
Well, we appreciate the time and insight as always. Joining us from Washington, D.C., Corn Refiners Association President and CEO, John Bode. Thanks so much, John. We'll look forward to talking to you again real soon.
Jesse, thank you very much. Always a pleasure to talk.